Now we need to create our user stories. Like we said, we began by creating components. Inside each component we have epics, and inside epics we have user stories. The user story is an issue type in Jira, so I can click on create in order to create my user story. Let's change the issue type to story and begin to write our user story. Like you see, the user story includes only a summary, doesn't include a name. And the summary of the user story is written in the form of, as a user, I want something in order to achieve a goal. So let's begin by the login user stories. So we can say, as a user, I want to be able to log in using phone number so that I can access the application. So this user story is part of a component, and this component is the Rider application. So we can say the Rider, Apple Watch and Android, iOS and iPadOS. We can change the name of the user because here we say as a user, but in the driver if we say as a user also, in this case we cannot distinguish between them. So here we can say as a Rider, so that we know that this user story is related to the Rider, not the driver. Let's scroll. The reporter, linked issues. Here we have the fixed version. What is the version that this user story is part of? We can say version 1. Then the priority is highest. Then we have the epic link. Like we said, the user story can be attached or linked to an epic. So the epic link, we can choose any epic of our epics. We have the Rider login. This is part of the Rider login. But like we see, the user story can be part of one epic. We cannot connect it to more than one epic. We can connect it to more than one component. Okay. Then we have sprint. We didn't create any sprints. So let's click on create another and click on create. We have also another user story in the Rider. As a Rider, I want to be able to log in using email address. And also we have the same for all fields. Another one, as a Rider, I want to be able to log in using Apple ID. Then we have, as a user, I want to be able to save my login credentials so that I don't have to log in again each time I open the app. So those are the Rider login user stories. We can also think of the registration user stories. So here we will only change the epic link because we will create user stories for registration, so we can choose Rider registration. The first one, as a Rider, I want to be able to sign up using phone number. Let's copy this, create another, and then change the phone number to email address. Then we have Apple ID. So this is the registration. We can think of another epic for the Rider. So for example, we have request a ride for a friend. So here, as a Rider, I want to be able to request a ride for a friend who has Uber application. So for example, I can request a ride for a friend who has the application, and also I can request a ride for a friend who doesn't have the application. So this is a user story for the friend who has the application, and another one for a friend who doesn't have Uber application. So let's think of, for example, the user stories for declining a ride. So this is not part of the Rider components. This is part of the driver components. So here, driver Android, driver iOS, driver iPadOS. Let's scroll. And here in declining a ride, for example, the rider can decline a ride. So as a rider, I want to be able to decline a ride if it doesn't fit my schedule, for example. Okay. Another user story might be, as a driver, I want to be able to block a specific customer who I don't want to deal with. This is another example of blocking a ride. So in the first case, you just refused to accept the ride. Here you refused to accept the ride and also you blocked this customer. Another one, for example, as a driver, I can set my status to busy so that no rider can request a ride from me. So in this case, the driver, for example, is going to have lunch. He wants to have a break. In this case, he can set his status to busy and no rider can request this specific driver. So those are some user stories. Click on create. So like we see here, we have our backlog. No issues are available, 0 of 12 issues visible. When I clicked on clear all filters, like you see, those are my user stories. So what if I have a user story that is not part of any component? I can create it from here, like you see. So as a user, I want to be able to view about us page. So this is a simple user story. Like you see, it's created but without a version and also without an epic, and it had the default priority, which is medium. Then I can open it and begin to change some settings inside it. If we click on epics, we can see that in the rider login we have 4 issues. If I click on it, I can view the issues that are related only to the rider. Then I can clear all filters. For each user story, we have something very important, which is called acceptance criteria. Each user story should have acceptance criteria that will verify that this user story is done. So in the next video, we will understand the acceptance criteria and begin to write acceptance criteria for those user stories.